Survivor Episode 3, Week 3 of Survivor 43. I am really enjoying this season so far, actually. I think I'm actually enjoying it more than I was going into 42. I don't necessarily remember exactly how I felt, let's say 3 episodes into season 42, but 43 is actually starting out very strong. And there is still one big gripe I have with this season so far, and it's kind of an issue that I brought up a lot last week. But Survivor 43, it's actually, I got a new player on, this episode that I am really starting to like in this game. Previously, my favorite player so far had been Cody, and I think he still might be. This was just one episode, but we're starting to really learn the people that are playing in this season a little bit more, and I'm starting to find my favorites, and I really like that. I'm really happy that I'm finding some people that I do like within this season, because then obviously that gives me a person to root for. So I'm very excited about that. But let's just kind of go through my notes here. I always write down my notes for the episodes in week 3 here. Had some cool stuff, and it still had some one big annoying thing. So it started out with basically Gabler. We touched on this like last week or a few weeks ago, something like that, first episode maybe. Gabler is just, I don't know if that's just kind of the narrative they're trying to push through the editing of the season, where they have some of his tribe members saying that he's doing nothing, and he's struggling, he's having a very hard time, and I guess they're saying it more in a way that he's having a tough time out on the island, and I guess it's not necessarily in a negative way. But it seems like he might be having a tough time out on the island, just dealing with the elements, and in the game of Survivor itself, just enduring every day out there. They seem to touch on that actually quite a bit, at least in the beginning of this episode, and I don't know if that's going to have any ramifications going forward into the later episodes. But in this episode, I actually did start to like Gabler a little more. I didn't really have much feeling toward him so far in this season, but the whole thing on his tribe, where there was a few, like Ellie and them, were thinking that he was just completely stupid and he had no idea that his idol still worked. I think that was actually pretty, I don't know, man, that was just kind of, I really like Gabler after this, because he's well aware that his idol still works, and for some reason they thought that he was stupid enough to not know that. I think it was just kind of funny to watch, actually, because like right when they asked him, do you know your idol still works or not? He's like, yeah, obviously my idol still works. He's well aware. He knows what he's doing. Okay, he knows the game that he's playing, and he has a plan going forward, whether it works or not. And it's just it's interesting to me. I'm very curious to see how that plays out once he reveals that he knows, well aware that his idol works. I don't know how. It just came off so wrong that like people like Ellie on his tribe were just so confident that he was just so blindly stupid to not know about his idol. Like, he's the one who found his idol, he read the thing and everything like that, and he's supposed to just suddenly not know his idol works. I might have missed something, but it just seemed very strange to me. But I am liking Gabler a little more going into this episode. I'm curious to see how well he goes, how well he does going forward. But one thing I did notice in this episode, I wrote it down, saying less sob stories. I wrote that down near the beginning of the episode. It's about halfway through, and we didn't really have much of it. I don't know if we had any, really. The sob stories, the backstory stuff, we didn't get much. It was like, okay, good. We're finally focusing on the game a little bit. And then about halfway through, we started to get some, like, from Noelle and all that stuff. And I'm not saying these stories that we go back to and learn more about the players, I don't think it's bad. Like, some of them are fine. You learn more about the person. But I'm going to say it again. Like, I don't care. I'm going to be honest. I don't care. I want to watch the game of Survivor now. If it makes sense, in this case with Noelle specifically, I think it made a lot of sense. There's a lot of focus on her in this episode, but I mean, if it makes sense to actually bring in that story, and if it comes up naturally in the episode, and they're talking and they're strategizing and everything, then you can maybe bring up the whole backstory. But lately with Survivor, you don't just talk about it anymore. They have to have the whole thing where they flash all of their backstory and their images and their memories and their history on the screen. They have to play a bunch of videos and pictures over the screen while you're watching the show. And it just seems like an overproduced little backstory to make you feel sad about a person on the game when you really, I just want to focus on their gameplay and how they're playing the game mostly. And it wasn't as annoying in this episode, I guess, but it's very noticeable still, and I kind of hope we move away from it as we learn more about these people. But I did notice that we kind of got back into it there later in the second half of the episode. Now, we also did have like a little side thing that Carla on the Coco tribe, she actually was the next person to find the, Beware a challenge, where she had to collect all the beads from all of her tribe members, and I think she did it a little bit better than Cody did in the last episode. I think she did it, at least the way they presented it, she did it a little bit better. She just seemed to navigate it a little bit better. I guess she made up the story where she needed to make a bracelet or something for her wife. I mean, whatever, it's fine, it works, and I think it worked better than Cody's. So she got all the beads, and now she has an immunity idol, and she didn't lose her vote, so she will not have her vote lost for the next tribal council that she will be at. It's always interesting to see these different types of immunities thrown into the game, even though we kind of saw the whole concept last episode. I did mention last week that I wasn't too fond of the whole change up. I would rather honestly just have these people just find the normal immunity idol. Like, I don't know when the last time a normal immunity idol has been implemented in the game of Survivor, because it feels like every single immunity idol now is earned in some sort of strange, weird way now. You have to do this, this, and this to get your immunity idol. You can't just find it anymore and then insert it into the game and watch the gameplay itself. So when you had a normal immunity idol, the game wasn't not interesting. Like, it was still interesting. When you had an immunity idol, you would then navigate your game, how you would vote, how you would align yourself with certain people, and you would choose to either play your idol or not play your idol, see if people find out if you have an idol or not have an idol. There was still gameplay there to watch, and inserting this whole new thing where you have to earn your idol, you have to do certain things, and just to get your immunity, or else you lose your vote and all that stuff. I think it's getting a little bit too much. That's my opinion, of course. Some people might like it. It still is engaging. I did find myself engaged in, wanting the people and wanting the person to actually get all the beads from their tribe members and get their idol, because it's just kind of like the grab there. They want you to root for that person to get all the beads and then earn their idol. I get it, but I personally would rather just go back to the normal stuff. I don't know if they're really going to do it. They seem to just want to go forward and change up the game in that way, and I guess that's just how it's going to go. It's working. It's not like not working. So we'll see where they go from there. I'm sure we're going to see that played again at least one more time with the Baka tribe. We'll see that probably again once someone else finds that idol. But that is another thing that they brought back in this episode. But the immunity challenge itself, Baka and Coco did win again. That means Vessi is once again going to tribal. This image right here of the tribe is getting quite outdated now. Obviously, we have, I think her name was Justine, from last week. She got voted out last week, and now we will have to vote out another person. So I got written down here, they kind of ended up reaching this whole point where they wanted to either vote out NECA or Noelle. Noelle ended up getting sent out to do that whole risk your vote thing with two other tribe members from the other tribes, and they actually ended up deciding that Noelle should get to risk her vote so she can get the advantage. So the advantage is to steal your vote. So she risked her vote. The other two let her do that. So they did it right there along with everyone else. They all did it, and they let Noelle get the advantage. And that means she can now steal a vote whenever she wishes. And she did not disclose that to any of her tribe mates, so nobody on her tribe currently knows, I believe, that she has the steal vote, and she did not use it tonight. She did not use it tonight either. I mentioned earlier there is one person in this episode that I'm actually really starting to like, and that is Noelle. I think, it's just because the episode in general is focused on her. Mostly, it seemed very central on her and her story. We did have like a flashback and a whole montage of her, history and her story of what happened to her and everything like that. I think it was fine. I'm in general, the sob story stuff I'd rather see less of, but it was fine. It worked because you could see her really doing well in the challenge. She was incredible in the challenge, a lot better than some of the other people. I guess NECA included. She did great in the challenge. even with her leg. Some people might not think she would do well or not, and she did great. And I'm really starting to like her because she's not really necessarily getting mad at people, or she's just got a great attitude about things. She doesn't necessarily need to be reaffirmed by everybody that she's going to do great. She's doing awesome. She is going out of her way to be great and be awesome in this season, and I think it's great. She's very, very confident in her abilities and what she can accomplish in the game of Survivor, and she doesn't really feel put down by the fact that she only has one leg. So I really like that. And she was kind of the standout person in week 3 here. And I still think Cody is generally my favorite player so far in the season. They didn't really focus much on him in this episode, but I really did like him in the first 2. And he's still obviously in the game because the person voted out was Nneka. Nneka was the one voted out. She didn't do well in the puzzle on the challenge, and ultimately just ended up voting her out. Again, I don't feel much towards it right now because we honestly just haven't seen much of these people yet. It's only week 3. It's episode 3 only. Once we get further into the season, you'll be either rooting for someone to go home or rooting for someone to win. And right now, I'm just still at that point where I'm starting to find my favorite players, and I'm starting to I just don't really care yet for some other people going, and that's just kind of how it is. But I do have like 2 favorite players right now, and I think that's really cool. I do have Noelle and I have Cody right now as kind of my top players to watch in this season. Don't know how far they'll go. I always choose that more just based on how much I'm enjoying the season, how enjoyable they are to watch in the show itself. And right now I'm kind of rooting for both of them, and we'll see how it goes. But Survivor 43, I think it's going really well so far. None of the woke stuff has really been showing up, at least so far. I really hope they don't do it. It gets really frustrating. Right now it feels like a pretty natural game of Survivor, despite all the weird changes they always like to try doing. Feels pretty good so far. So Survivor Week 3, I think it was good. Again, I don't feel much for the person voted out this week. It kind of just is what it is. Kind of makes sense with her not doing well on the challenge. But I did find a new favorite person on Survivor 43 here, and I'm curious to see how far Noelle will go, and I'm curious to see how far Cody will go, and hopefully Vesey wins something next week because they're really losing some people here.